Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Braving the Mountain podcast. I have loved recording these lately. I feel like I've really shifted in this mom space, and this is something that I was doing a couple years ago and kind of got away from because I was like, oh, I need mompreneurs. And I don't know, I got a little squirrely in my business, and I'm so excited to have circled back to helping moms create better lives. I've always helped moms, but um, helping those of you who are feeling what I was feeling at the very beginning of my motherhood, it's just felt incredible to be back. And I just want to share with you this week is kind of all about if you are not showing up as the mom that you thought you'd be, as the mom that you desire to be, and I am here to help you. And today I am here to help you understand why you may not be showing up as the mom that you thought you would be, that you wanted to be, that you hoped you'd be. And we get to shift it. But we first have to understand why. So maybe you've become aware that you're like, oh, this isn't how I pictured myself in motherhood. This isn't how I pictured myself showing up. This isn't how I pictured myself being. I thought I would be way different, but I am just trying to survive my days. I am struggling. I feel guilty when I try to do something for myself. I know that's a big one. Or maybe you're caught in the trap of like, I just never feel like I'm doing enough. It just never feels like enough. I have this mile long to do list in my head, and I just never feel like I'm staying on top of it all. I feel like I'm behind. It's not even 8 a.m. yet, and I'm already behind today. Like, if you have been feeling that, I get you. I see you. I am here for you. And that is what this episode is all about. It's just helping you understand why. Because on Friday, I go just a little bit deeper and talk about a little bit more, but I wanted to share this with you first. So, the first reason that studies have shown, like why we as women aren't what we thought we would be as a mom or as a woman, is because of what the expectation society places on us. Society has placed such a high expectation that we are supposed to be a hot mess. As a mom, we are doomed for hot messery. We are doomed to ride the chaos train. It's just like we gotta hop on that chaos train, put that top knot in your hair, throw that baggy t-shirt on with spit up all over it because you are on the chaos train today. That is the expectation that society has shown us motherhood looks like. It's what it portrays to us. If you think about movies that you've watched, the moms who are wealthy and have nannies and have all this are typically very snooty. They're very rude. And you're like, oh, I don't want to be like that. Right. So, of course, like we would try to not be like that. And so, therefore, we cannot have money. Therefore, we cannot have resources. Therefore, we cannot get help because I will turn into that. So, I just want you to really think about the impact that has had on your mind growing up. This wasn't just a thing of like things started to shift in the 50s, but the 50s still portrayed this vision of like the perfect housewife and the perfect mom. And as you grew up, I don't know if you're anything like me, but a lot of the movies that I watched portrayed like the rich mom as like the villain in the shows. And that is what we are taught. That is what our subconscious minds are taking in and understanding and believing. We're pulling these in as our truths because, especially if you've watched some of these shows as kids, then you have solidified a lot of the stories and beliefs that you will hold on to by the time you're age 12. Your money stories are solidified around the age of 8. So, how your parents talked about money, how they treated money, or how they not talked about money. That was my household. We did not talk about money or we fought about money. They were like the two extremes. So this is what has been placed before us. This is what we have been taught growing up. This is what we have deemed as normal. And so don't judge yourself for it. Just know better. Now that you know better, you can do better, right? The Maya Angelou quote, Mia Angelou, however you say her name, quote is, yeah. So societal expectations. The next one is the division of labor, the gender roles, because even though we have still expanded and elevated way beyond the 1950s vibe of mom does everything at home, dad goes to work and provides. We are way beyond that. Women went back to the workforce. Like we're in it. And yet, as moms, we still carry most of the mental load. We just do. And it was interesting. My husband and I had this talk the other day because here's what's funny is my kids went to the dentist for the first time since we moved to Arizona the other day. And we had to fill out new patient forms, right? We're going to a new dentist. We had to fill out new patient forms. And so we did not fill out the forms. I got the text message to fill out the forms and I messaged my husband and I said, "Hey, do you have time to fill these out?" And he was like, "Yeah, no problem." So he's filling them out and I walk out into the front room and he is like, "This sucks. Are you sure you don't want to do it?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to do it." I was like, "Why do you think I asked you to do it?" Because I know what those patient forms are like. I said, "I have filled every single new registration for school, every single new registration for dentist office, new doctor patient forms, I have done it. For 17 years of marriage, I have done it." And he's like, "Yeah, we had something good going. Like, why would we change it?" And I mean, he was kind of joking with me, but if you really think about it, it's true. The mom carries the brunt of household chores, parenting responsibilities. We just do. And so he and I went on a walk later that night. And I remember like telling him, so when we moved here to Arizona at the end of July, the very end of July, I remember we resorted back. It was awful. We resorted back to like our old survival mechanisms. It was really weird. It was really interesting to be the observer of, but we went back to our old survival patterns. And so it went back to me being the hyper independent version of me that I am, wanting to manage and control everything, right? Trying to get our systems back in place, trying to like reestablish the boundaries and the expectations that we had set with the kids in our previous house. And my husband resorted back to not seeing any of it. Let's just put it that way. Not seeing any of it. Not seeing where the kids were not following the expectations, not seeing what needed to be done, not doing his laundry day. Like, and I'm not like pointing a finger or blaming or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, this is what we resorted back to. And I remember I started to feel the resentment creeping back in. And I was like, does anybody else care? Does anybody else care if this laundry gets done? Does anybody else care if this house gets cleaned? Like, what is the deal? And finally, I was like, I am done. And I printed off our chore chart, the boundaries task list thing. That's the free template. You can snag it in the show notes below. I always leave the link because it's my number one opted into freebie for you guys. And so I want you to think about, so my husband and I talking, that's where I was. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water. But my husband and I were on a walk and we were talking and I was like, I feel like we've all resorted back to like old survival patterns. And I said, because the thing is, the way that he was raised was his mom did everything at home. She also worked full time for many, many years. She was still working full time until like 2 years ago. And his dad would go to work and his dad would come home and his mom would go out and help his dad with chores. And then his mom would also cook dinner. She would also do all the laundry. She cleans the house. She does it all. And he does not. And so this was what was modeled to my husband. For me, I was raised in a single parent household for most of it. So it's really hard. Like my mom got divorced when I was probably like 7, remarried. I don't know how old I was, 10, 11, somewhere in there, maybe. I have a lot of patchy memory just from the trauma in my childhood, but I know he adopted me in 5th grade when I was 12. So that's all I know. That's really like what I remember age frame wise is that I was 12 when he adopted me because I was in 5th grade. But and so she was very hyper independent, of course. She never asked for help, at least not that I knew of or saw, right? She worked 3 jobs. She did what she could, like, and then she just elevated. And but it was still very much like that hyper independence that I was taught. And so now we come together with me and my husband. And so think about you and your partner and how you were raised, right? it's still the same thing. We're still carrying out generations of gender roles, the gender roles that we were taught and the gender roles that our parents were taught. And so I just want you to go back and look at that. Okay. And then the next thing is like mom guilt. You want to go do something for yourself, but you feel bad because you think that you should be spending the time with your kids, and maybe you should take your kids with you to go do that thing because you should spend more time with them and really be present and enjoy them. And you can do both. You can do both. Guilt creeps in really when we feel like we're doing something wrong. And I want you to ask yourself here, and again, we can't always mindset our way out of things, right? But ask yourself here, are you truly doing something wrong when you go out and do something for yourself? No, you're not. It's perfectly healthy and actually better for our kids to see mom having a life outside of them. So much better for your kids. It is a life where we teach our kids this and that get to exist together. I love you and I love me. I love you and I love spending time with you and I love spending time with me, with my friends, with whatever. So you get to have both. You're doing nothing wrong, and it's going to help you show up as a better mom. It is, because you're filling your cup, you're feeling good about life, you are getting that outlet, seeing other people, hanging out with friends, doing something by yourself, going to the spa, getting a facial, whatever it is only going to expand your capacity to be a better mom. All right. Fear of judgment. This is another one. This one was huge for me. Huge. I was so scared of what people would think when I started making different decisions in life. I left the religion I was raised in because I realized how damaging it was, how it's actually what taught me lack of self-worth, lack of you have to be worthy to be able to do certain things when innately as human beings we are worthy. It taught me like if you don't do this, you're not good enough. So when we stepped away and like started living life on our terms, it was a lot of fear of judgment from friends. It was a lot of fear of judgment from family. It was hard. And that also plays into maybe you let your kids watch TV for 2.5 hours a day. And like the general guideline by your doctor, your pediatrician or whatever is 2 hours. And you're like, well, they're watching a little more TV than they should. And again, then that mom guilt starts to creep in that you're not doing something right and that you're not doing it good enough. And what is my mom going to think if we do it this way? And what is my sister going to say? Because she never keeps her opinions to herself. Like, whatever it is for you, that fear of judgment is so strong. Fear of judgment, fear of criticism, because innately, like, we all want to belong. We all want to, like, keep other people happy, but we have to realize, like, we can't. But the most important person for you to keep happy is you. What do you desire? What do you want? What makes you happy? What lights you up? And I'm willing to bet that maybe if you're feeling really lost in the throes of motherhood, you don't know what makes you happy right now. Maybe you know what used to make you happy, but what would make you happy now? So if you haven't thought about that for a while, that's a really good place to start. Um, and then a lot of times moms just have lack of support. A lot of times, again, if we go back to this like gender role situation, our husbands weren't taught how to clean a house and do laundry growing up. Some were, but in my case, my husband didn't even know how to start a washer when we got married. And so it's just really interesting to look at that and to not judge it and to not be, I don't want to say not be resentful because I had a lot of resentment toward my husband, but I also had to realize my piece of that accountability too. That was also mine to be able to say, hey, I need help. And I didn't. Instead, I just let the resentment grow toward him. And so take your own accountability here of like, where are you allowing? Maybe that feels really triggering, but if you are in a situation that you don't like, you're allowing it if you're not changing it. And so look at your piece and where are you lacking support? That is a huge one for women. This is something I teach in my program too, like Mom Life Mastery, is that you, and the doors are open to Mom Life Mastery. They actually open on the 19th. So I have a masterclass coming up, and Mom Life Mastery cart is opening. So if you want to come to the masterclass, if you want to learn to be the woman and the mom that you desire to be and to get support from your husband, this is for you. Come to it. But the resentment grew really heavy with my husband. I was angry at him. I was blaming him. I wanted to point a finger. I didn't want to take my responsibility in that at all, that I was allowing it. But I have learned now, being on the back end of that and healing all the shit ton of trauma and all of that, that yeah, I played a part in that. I played a part in that. So, as angry as I was, and as much as I wanted to point the finger and be like, you're the reason for my miserable life, and you're not helping out, and you're not doing this, it took me a long time to ask. And then when I finally did ask, I've told this story a few times, but it was like, listen, if you act like your dad, I'm out. And I am done doing all the housework. We are a 50-50 partnership. This is literally what I said to him. I was like, we are a 50-50 partnership. I need help around the house. And if you can't give that to me, like, I'm done. Like, I did not know how to approach it. I do know now. And I definitely approach it a lot better. And I help you approach it in a much better way that he'll be more receptive to that. But also knowing we can't control other people, right? But lack of support and resources is something that we as moms really, really struggle with, especially if you have chosen to be a stay-at-home mom. Then for me, I felt guilty spending my husband's money. And then that's like air quotes, right? My husband's money, because I also had issues around money. So I didn't look at it as our money. Even though I was the one managing it, I didn't dare spend, nor did we have the money to spend at the time. But I didn't dare spend on anything extra. So I felt very restricted. I felt very controlled. I felt very held back, whatever you want to say, like however you're feeling. And so just know these are all things that are here to support you. So come to my masterclass. I haven't even named it yet at the time of this recording. I haven't decided what I want to call it, but it's all about being the mom and the woman that you desire to be, showing up differently, like deciding I am done with this way of life. I am done in the struggle. I am done not being the mom that I always pictured myself being. It's time to step into that. So if you're wanting into Mom Life Mastery, reach out to me via DM and I will give you a special offer. And I'm only offering that right here in the podcast. There will be a special offer on the masterclass, like on the web, like our little mom event that I'm going to do on Zoom. But you get an extra special deal if you're listening to this and you come from the podcast and you reach out to me on DM. So you decide. You decide. Pick your path. But yeah, so if you're not the mom you want to be, there's all the reasons why you might be a little stuck in not being her. And I am here to give you the tools so that we can build your bike. If you remember, there's going to be a metaphor. You're going to hear it on Friday again. But like, imagine you're running a race and people are lapping you and somebody hands you a bike, but you have to put it together. And when you stop and you're putting the bike together, people are passing you, they're lapping you and whatever. We're going to build the bike together. So we're sitting down, we're building this bike together over 8 weeks. And once that bike is put together, you hop on and start riding. And now you're passing everybody that passed you. That is the concept here with this program. This program is going to help you build your bike so that you become the mom and the woman that you desire to be. You become the authority of your life. You are in control. You're doing life your way by your rules. And nobody else is telling you what to do because we've dropped the fear of judgment and we're not going to mindset our way through this. I know that you hear of a lot of programs that are really heavy on the mindset side. Yes, mindset is key, but you cannot mindset your way into a life you love. You've got to have the somatic piece, and I bring in my breathwork method to do just that. So not only are you going to be releasing the trauma and the energy that you don't desire to keep holding on to from your body, then we're also going to take a top-down approach and work with the mind and shifting your thoughts. But if we don't shift the energy within your body, you're going to keep resorting back to old patterns. And I want you to look at your life and see where have you recreated patterns over and over and over and over again. And you're like, why the hell can I not get out of this? It's because it is still existing within you energetically. We have to release that because if you don't release it energetically, it's going to continue to exist in your 3D reality. And breathwork is one of the most powerful tools that you can utilize to, one, Tap into your highest self. You bypass the conscious mind. You tap in to the highest version of you, to God, to source, to universe, whatever you believe. You tap into that power so that you can truly feel into who you desire to be. And then you release the energy that's been holding you back, that's been keeping you stuck in these perpetual patterns that you don't want to be in. That is what breathwork does. And so I want you to picture a jar full of fireflies. So your body is a jar, it's full of fireflies, and you put a lid on your head. And all the fireflies are pinging around, hitting the sides of the jar. They're trying to get out, but they just can't. This is all the energy stored within your body, the stories, the beliefs, maybe some traumas from when you were a kid, maybe some traumas from like even just recently in adulthood. And remember, there's big T trauma and there's little T trauma. So little T trauma is somebody called you a name, your mom made a snarky comment, somebody told you were stupid on the playground in kindergarten and you're still holding on to that. Big T trauma is like your sexual abuse, your emotional abuse, your physical abuse, that type of trauma. So most of us, probably 99.99% of the population has at least some little trauma. And all it is that your body, your nervous system was not ready to handle when somebody called you stupid. Maybe you didn't go home and be like, Mom, this kid called me stupid on the playground today. And you were able to like talk through it with your mom. She was probably just like, oh, I'm sorry. And that was it. And so you didn't really process through it all the way. And so it got stored as energy in your body. So that is what is pinging around, hitting the sides of the jar. That's all these fireflies. And what we do in the breathwork method is we're taking the lid off. We're taking the lid off that jar. So when you take a lid off a firefly jar, a whole bunch of them fly out, right? Maybe a few stay. A few stay, hang out, want to be here for the party when the new guys come in. So lid comes off the jar, they fly out, and now you are left with space. You are left with more space for new ideas to fly in. And so I want you to really think about that. If you let go of some of the stories, the beliefs, the trauma that you have been holding on to, you are opening yourself up, expanding your capacity for more to fly in. This is new ideas, better ways of being that you want to be, the way that you want to show up, new systems to put into place. I teach you all the systems, but you get to implement like what feels good to you. You're going to have an expanded capacity to handle it all. You're going to bounce back quicker when life knocks you down. You're actually going to stop being triggered. And what I mean by triggered is like when your kid is like losing their shit and you're about to lose your shit because you just like can't even handle it. You can just like feel it all in your body and you're just like wanting to smack them. That urge can go away. I promise you. Because it has for me in many situations that I used to get super triggered in and just want to like smack one of my kids. That urge has gone away. And so it will go away for you too. We do this through breathwork. We put systems into place. Like you truly become the authority of your life. You're going to have all the tools and all the systems that you need to create the life that you desire, to show up as the mom that you desire to be. And we're going to knock out all the 5 things that I just told you that are holding you back. We're going to overcome those to really be able to create that life that you desire. So drop me a DM. Let's freaking go. There's a link in the bio the link in the show notes. If you're like, nope, I already know I need this program, doors open. And you get a special only for this podcast, but you have to reach out to me first. So drop me a DM and let's chat about it. And I will talk to you next time.